It got worse. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel, Wine About Books, where we talk about our favorite morally gray men and all the red flags we love to ignore. Before we go any further, don't forget to like and subscribe so you never miss an episode. And with that, let's get into today's episode. Before we actually talk about Hunting Adeline, which is what we're going to talk about today, which is the second book in the cat and mouse duet from Hunting Adeline, I just want to segue a little bit and talk about Dune, which I know is totally kind of like off-brand for this channel. It's definitely primarily a dark romance channel. However, I am just a reader who, and I assume if you're here too, you are a reader who enjoys a good story. And even though dark romance is 90% of the time my go-to, sometimes I like to divert a little bit and just read something new, something interesting, especially if it's just a good story. And I have to say, my husband dragged me to Dune, and I've seen part one, I've seen part two. I am not a sci-fi fan by any stretch of the imagination. In fact, I cannot stand Star Wars. I'm sorry if I offend anybody, but I cannot stand it. My poor husband has tried for so long to get me into it, and I just can't get into it. I'm sorry. If you love it, that's great. It's not for me. And I say that because I think this is one of the best, well, not just movies, but stories I think I have ever read. Like, I would put it up in my top 5. Definitely, for sure. If you are not a sci-fi fan like myself, but you enjoy just a original, good story, I highly suggest that you check out the movies if you don't read the book. I know the book is really dense. Trust me, I've read it, and it's very dense. There's a lot of world building, and it just throws you right in. Kind of like if you've read Crescent City, if you can handle that and how she just throws you right into that, that's a good starting point. But I think Frank Herbert did an amazing job. Obviously, by today's standards, you wouldn't think it's that original because so many sci-fi things have copied it to this day, including Star Wars. I'm just going to say it is, personally, I think it's a straight ripoff of Star Wars, but that's not what we're talking about. But yeah, I freaking loved that movie. I love that story. I love that book. I even ordered Dune Messiah because I think I might read it. And I say this because to all my fellow readers, you're looking for something different, something new, something original, something just with a great story, I highly suggest you pick up Dune and maybe read it. If you don't want to read it, just watch the movie. The movies are incredible. And for us romance lovers, especially us dark romance lovers, there's not a heavy romance. There is a little romance in it, and it becomes more prominent kind of in the third act of the book. It does become a big part of what happens, but it is not a romance book, so I will warn you, don't go in there thinking there's going to be all this romance and spice, and well, there is spice, but not the kind you're thinking of. But I loved the romance part of it that gets integrated, and it's just so well done. It's so good, and I would argue Paul, the main character, is a very morally gray anti-hero character. So if you really like that in a main character, you might really like his character. If you may not need all the romance. Like for someone like me who's a huge romance reader, I was able to read it and fly through it, and it was because it was just so good. It's so engaging. Anyway, that's my little segue. I had to put that out there because it's so good. I think my husband and I are actually going to do an episode of Dune on this channel. I'm not sure when that will be, sometime in the near future, but yeah, you'll get to meet my husband. He'll be on here because he is a huge sci-fi fan, and I think he just can't wait to talk about it. And we both need to talk about it. So yeah, we'll talk about that on this channel. If you're interested, check it out. I know it's not romance, but it's just a great story. And if you're into just good stories, yeah. Anyway, so we'll go more into that when my husband and I do our episode. But yeah, so let's talk about what we all actually came here for, which is Hunting Adeline. And like I said in my last video, I liked this book more than Hunting Adeline, which is not usually the case in a duet. Usually the second book in a duet, I'm kind of like meh on, because a lot of the first story is just better in my opinion. But I really enjoyed Hunting Adeline. I was reading it thinking the author was not going to go there, and they went there. They went there exactly where I did not expect it to go. And this book gets darker than the first one. So if the first one was too heavy for you, this one's not getting any better. This one's not getting any easier. In fact, I would argue it's a little harder to read. Thankfully, there's not as much of the child aspect in this one. There is, but it's not as prominent as it was in the first one, which personally for me is what made that one hard to read. Because like I said in the last video, I have a daughter, and part of the reason I love reading books is I like being able to like put myself in the character's shoes. And that was not a situation I wanted to be in and put myself in, or anybody I know in. So that's why that one was a little harder for me. But Hunting Adeline, I loved. Again, a situation I do not want to find myself in. However, this one I found was a lot more humanizing of Adeline, because she is such this strong character, and you just see her slowly get beat down and beat down and beat down, and having these real human reactions to the things that she goes through. And as we know from the last book, spoiler, if you have not read the last book, we're going to talk a little bit about what happened. We ended on the cliffhanger of Adeline being kidnapped and sold into this ring of people being sold to other people. And basically the first half of the book, because the book is divided into part 1 and part 2, and it's not a quick reunion. And the author even tells you that at the very beginning. It's not a quick reunion. So if you're going into it expecting Z to find her like just like that, you're going to be really disappointed. But it's so good. Like it's so engaging. You feel for Adeline. You're just wanting, like you can feel her agony, and you can feel just her frustration and just how helpless she is. And I think the author did a great job of bringing those type of emotions into play. Z is a character who's still Z, larger than life. Can't really, he's as human as he's gonna be. But yeah, the first part is just following Adeline in this world that she has been thrust into. So she is sent to this house of a lady who's a certain part of this organization who helps prepare these women to be sold. And you're watching Adeline go through this process, and meeting the other girls in the house. And there's one girl in the house that I cannot fucking stand, but you also start to feel really bad for her, because as you learn more of her story, you just feel bad for her. And Adeline kind of does, but Adeline also is like, you're not gonna fuck with me. She does try to sabotage Adeline a lot, which unfortunately puts Adeline in a lot of terrible situations that she just has to deal with because she has no choice. And they're hiding her in this house so Z cannot track her and find her in any like CCTV cameras or security footage or car video, they're just anything. So she's essentially trapped in this house. And I'm not going to say for how long, because that would be a spoiler, but I can tell you my jaw hit the floor when you figure out how long she's going to be there. And it's just so upsetting and depressing. But everything she goes through in this house, it is heavy. It is exactly probably what you're thinking. Like I said, when the author went there, she went there. And there is no hiding. There is no sugarcoating it. Like if the trigger warnings, you should read them, because if it says that talks about something, again, like the first one, it doesn't just go gloss over it. It fully goes into it. And it can be very triggering for some people if you've been through certain things or just have certain triggers. So I would really read those and take it into consideration, like we always do, because, like they say at the beginning of all these books, your mental health does matter. And I personally, it sounds terrible, but I found it a little easier to read. Like I said, because it wasn't like the child aspect, but it is heavy. It's graphic. It's sad. You go through a roller coaster of emotions, and you're watching Adeline in this helpless situation, and you as the reader feel helpless. And you're also following Z as he is determined to find her, and as skilled as he is at finding things and finding people and saving people, even he's struggling, and you're starting to see a little more of a human side to him, a little less stalker and a little more as human as he's gonna be. And so that is the whole first part of this book. And kind of like in the first one, Adeline finds a diary of someone who used to be in this house, and she's documenting her experience and how she wants to escape. And there's a certain event that happens in this house when the lady of the house feels the girls are ready and they're tested in a certain way. And this girl thinks it's the perfect time to escape. And so Adeline is reading her diary entries and trying to figure out who this girl is and if she escaped and what is this event she keeps talking about. And the girl is actually named Molly. So if you are an H.D. Carlton fan, you will know she just came out with a book called Where's Molly? Not Finding. Where's Molly? And I haven't read it yet, but I'm assuming it's about the Molly in this book, because you don't know, you kind of get left on a cliffhanger with her. So I'm probably going to read that book because I'm just curious to see what her story's like, but it is a shorter book, so I haven't decided when I'm going to read it yet because I am heavily invested in another series right now. So, but I'll probably get there. But anyway, that being said, the first part of this book, this happens. The second part of the book is about revenge. And you get a lot more of Sibby in this book. And I loved Sibby. I loved how crazy she was. I love her craziness. I think some people might find it annoying, but I thought she was fun. She's a fun character to me. And she plays a big role in this book, and she's in it a lot more. Dia's in this book a lot more. And yeah, the second part is just about total revenge. And I ate it up. Could not put it down. And there's a lot more spice in the second half of this book. Way more spice than the first book. Like, holy shit, way more spice. And it's just about revenge. I'm not going to go too far into it because I don't want to spoil anything. You need to go read it. I'm assuming if you read the first one, you were okay with it and you want to keep reading and you want to find out what happens. I will say something I was not a big fan of was how some of the revenge took place. It's probably my only gripe with this book. I think I wanted more of a climax. And to me, it was kind of like, meh. Like, it served its purpose, but I wanted more. I just wanted more. I don't know. Maybe you'll read it. Tell me what you think. You think if it was satisfactory or not. But I won't tell you who gets revenge on who, how, when, where, why. Just the second part's about revenge. And it's very satisfying, despite the fact, like I said, the climax was kind of meh, but it is very satisfying. Yeah, and it's a great conclusion to Zayd and Adeline's story. And I loved the last sentence in this book. I think it was so perfect and appropriate. I'm not going to tell you, like, my husband's the type who loves to read the last page of books that I'm reading. I don't understand those people. Like, maybe you are those people, but I like no spoilers. So I won't tell you what it is, but like, I love the last line of this book. It just gave me chills and I think it's so fun. So yeah, continue with this series. Like I said, it's just as heavy. It's darker. It's plenty of spice. There's plenty of spice, but it is a little more humanizing about Adeline, and that's what I really liked about it. So, yeah, tell me what you think. Did you like Hunting Adeline? Did you like Haunting Adeline? Did you like this duet in general? If you didn't, tell me what you didn't like about it. But if you loved it, tell me what you loved about it. I can tell you, like I said, in this book, the only thing I really didn't like was how certain things were carried out at the end. But yeah, there's a fun little twist at the end to this one, like a really fun twist that I kind of didn't see come. Well, you kind of figure it out maybe like a chapter or so before it's revealed, and then you're like, oh, that makes a lot of sense. But yeah, so tell me what you think. Pick it up. Like I said, I'm gonna do a Dune video with my husband soon. If you're not interested, that's really cool. I know sci-fi is not everybody's thing. We come here for dark romance, but it's such a good story. I have to talk about it. As much as I love ranting about all my dark romance books. That's how I feel. So yeah, pick up this book. Tell me what you think. Tell me if there's any other books that you want me to read and review. I can tell you I loved it. I don't know if I could reread these because they are heavy, but I loved it. So yeah, let me know what you think, guys. And thanks for watching. And I will see you guys next time. All right. Bye.